Lubaba, anything you'd like about the roles in general, because obviously she works with the other roles, knows stuff about them too, campaigning and generally what the work is like, so you can hopefully leave here with the best understanding possible of what the role is at any point. So, but without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to the wonderful Lubaba. Lubaba's been our Vice President of Welfare for the last 2 years, and previous to this was the elected Black, Asian and Minority Ethnic Students Officer. So she loves the Students' Union and student elections. But Lubaba, would you like to quickly introduce yourself, maybe what you studied here, a little bit of background? Fabulous.
Yes, of course. So hi, everybody. As Hannah has already mentioned, I am the Vice President of Welfare for the Student Union, and my pronouns are she, her. And yeah, so I studied international relations. I did that for an undergrad, graduated like 2 years ago. And then, yeah, I've been doing this role since. And as Hannah mentioned already, I was also the BME officer before I got involved as a sabbatical officer.
No, all the things. Very good guest for us to have. So I'm going to start off with the first question of my own. So what's your favourite thing about being a SAB?
I think my favourite thing about being a SAB is genuinely seeing the change that I was able to work on and campaign for. And I feel like, for example, today, we put out on our social media about the report and support tool. And that was something I worked on since I was the BAME officer. So it's been 3 years, and it feels so amazing that I've been able to see that actually happen. And it was because of my role as the Vice President of Welfare, which is just so fulfilling. It makes you feel so content.
Yeah, nice to be able to kind of actually tangibly see a really, really positive change there. Love that. What made you run for the role in the first place?
So I ran for a full-time position because I felt like as a part-time officer, I still had a lot of work that I really wanted to do. And that was like the main driving force as to why I ran for VP Welfare. I'm really, really passionate about like the Black attainment gap and the experiences, especially of our Black students. And I just really wanted to continue that work as the Vice President of Welfare, which is the main reason why I ran. But then, of course, there was a lot of other things happening.
What made you pick the VP Welfare role over any of the others?
Oh, I ran for welfare because I believe topics like liberation, the experiences of Black students are all linked to welfare, because welfare is quite a interesting role. I would say it's very interesting because you don't have an exact portfolio as a sabbatical officer. You cover things from activities to education, and things like that. So it's quite wide range, and as a person who runs like for VP Welfare, you get to kind of shift your vision for the role. And I think for me, I saw liberation and things like that play really well with welfare, because when we talk about welfare, we talk about well-being. It's a lot more complex than just, a student is struggling with their mental health and, they need support from the counselling service, for example. It can be a lot more complex. And it also involves things like what's happening inside the classroom and things like that. So, yeah, that's why I ran for welfare.
Yeah. And do you get to work much with the other sabbatical officer roles?
Yeah, all the time. So me and Liv, who's the Vice President of Activities, we've worked very closely together with Wellbeing Wednesday. We worked really well together with that. I've worked with the President when it comes to EDI things as well. And I work with the VP Education when it comes to like mitigating circumstances. So,
yeah.
How
much of the stuff that you know now about, say, like liberation, equality, diversity, would you say that you 100% knew before you started the role? And do you think like you need to know as much as you know now to be able to go into the role?
I wouldn't say that you need to know everything. I think that would be very foolish of me to say. Like, of course, you're learning on the job every single day, but I think it's important to have a good baseline. So like do a bit of research, understand your student population, understand like the bare basics, understanding what the issues are, look at the surveys that we've put together and we've done as a union, the research that we've done, and have an idea what the issues are that the student population has. Because the last thing you want is you get elected, you get involved in this job, and then you realize most, or if not all, your points that you had were points that you realized actually doesn't really impact the student population and doesn't involve them. So you want to be a bit more informed.
Yeah. How do you reckon people can get that like baseline information?
I would say that they can get that through like our surveys that we've done, our student union website. They can contact us as sabbatical officers, and like you can contact me. I'll be able to give you a good like headline of the different things that we've done. And yeah.
Love that. Has anyone got any more questions, or would you like me to keep questioning away? I love questioning people, so but the chat is open if anyone's got any questions. Yep, great question from AP. Can second year students apply to a full-time role?
Yes, they can, but it just means you will have to take a year out, because you can't do this role alongside your fullest, alongside studying full-time. So if you do decide to run for this position, then you will have to take a year out, do this job, and then go back to your degree.
Yeah. Do you know anybody who has taken a year out, and how did they find that?
Yes, I do know, actually. I know a couple of people, actually. Our housing advisor, Nabila, she was a SAB after her second year, and she took a year out and then finished her studies at Sheffield Hallam. Here at the student union, I believe Gerald also took a year out to do his be a SAB last year, as vice president of activities last year. Took a year out to do his SAB years, and then yeah. So,
would you say it's necessary to take a year out?
Am I allowed to be like frank and honest?
Yeah, please do.
You're not going to be able to balance the two. I'm going to be honest. You won't be able to balance being a full-time student and having a full-time job, because this is a full-time job. You get paid for it. And the balancing the two is going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah. So if someone wouldn't want to take a year out, would applying for a part-time role be more advisable?
Yeah, you can apply for the campus liaison officer. Yeah, that would be good, because that's something that you can do alongside your studies.
And would you say that the campus liaison officer would still be able to work on some welfare stuff with the VP welfare?
Yes, of course. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, definitely. If there is anything specific that you think that your campus needs, then you can always work with your VP welfare to get that work done.
Love that. From Monique, what would you say the hardest thing about your job was?
I think for me, I think the hardest job about being a VP welfare especially is that people misunderstanding my role and thinking that I'm a counsellor or someone who that does casework, but that's not my role. So I remember in the beginning of last year, I dealt with a lot of cases. I was quite full on, which emotionally exhausted me. And I think so I think that's really important to understand. Actually, as a VP welfare, you're mainly looking at the policy side of things. You're lobbying the university and things like that. You're not actually taking on any casework. And that's something that, honestly, I have to recommend you don't do.
Yeah, completely. Like, we have a full-time advice team who support that, as well as the university counselling team. It's a really good difference to make, to highlight there. So Deanna's asked, how do you manage the work-life balance with this full-time role?
Oh, you know what? Can I just say, this is an issue across the country for every sabbatical officer. I don't know any SAB that has a good work-life balance. However, I learned that the hard way, because I went through burnt out when I was being the first year SAB. So first year SAB, there was no work-life balance, I'll be honest. But second year SAB, you know what I did? Like, I've done a lot of, I just organized my time a lot better. If I would reject meetings if I don't need to be there. I'm very focused on what, excuse me. I'm very focused on what I want to get done. And I don't check my emails during the weekends or anything like that, and things for me, because I have a chronic condition, I have to be careful about my health as well. So I have to be even more careful and make sure actually the balance is really there.
Yeah. And have you found, so now going back to your first year, what advice would you give yourself to make sure you had that work-life balance that you're now a lot better at having?
Honestly, I'll put it like, things can wait. You don't have to sort everything out straight away. Things can wait. And I think that with that mentality, like, actually, yeah, or maybe I received an email from someone today. I don't have to reply to it today. I can wait a couple of days before I reply. Nothing's an emergency. If it was an emergency, they would not be contacting me. So, yeah.
Yeah, love that. And I love the way you've actually, like, and I can confirm that Barbara's got a much better work-life balance than when she first started working full time. So if you could run for a third year, would you?
No, I think 2 years is good. No, not like, not obviously don't get me wrong, guys. This job is amazing, but I can understand why they put a 2-year gap. I can understand why, because the job is exhausting. Or maybe I don't know if that was the reason why they've done that, but the job does take a lot out of you. It does take a lot out of you, and that's why I personally wouldn't run for a third term. But again, like I said, like, though it can be quite exhausting, you have like moments like today for me, which makes it all worth it in the end.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's good to get fresh ideas. We were speaking the other day, weren't we, about like there's so many projects you're really excited about. It's like, actually, it's now exciting to see what somebody else might take as next step on that stuff. So I'm just double checking what questions I haven't asked then. So is it possible to take on roles if you're in your like third year, like final year of uni?
What do you mean by roles? Like run for a sabbatical officer?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I ran for a sabbatical officer in my third year of university. So yeah, that's
you
possible.
basically do it as a grad job then.
Yeah, you do it as a graduate job kind of thing.
Nice, love that. Okay, so if you get the role, do you get any time off, and how much time do you get off? I assume that's holidays.
So yes, you do get times off, and whoever does win the election for VP welfare, I will be explicitly telling them, take your time off, you take your annual leave. So we have, how much annual leave do we have? Like 20.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
We have a lot, I'll be honest, we have a lot of days off, and 100% you have to take them, like 28 days. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, we have 28 days of paid annual leave. And then on top of that, you have Christmas off, you got Easter off. So yeah.
2 weeks off for Christmas, 1 week off for Easter, a day off for your birthday.
Exactly, nice. Yep, that's true.
And then you can also get some time off for volunteering.
Yeah. And then on top of that, if let's say you've had to overwork one day where you've maybe done a freshers event or something like that in the evening, then you can take it off as a toil the next day. So you're still working within your hours.
Yeah. So for example, we're working late tonight. So we all got to start slightly later this morning. Exactly. And to work late this week, we'll get to start later all week, which is exciting. Exactly. Another question in for you. What advice would you give for campaigning for the role?
Oh, election campaign?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I haven't done an online campaign. Actually, yeah, I haven't really done an online campaign. So I don't know. I feel bad, but I guess like obviously social media is going to be your best friend for that week of campaigning. So I guess it's a lot of like private messaging. It's going to be like, I would say private message people and don't message in group chats. Like maybe private message people, make sure they get and they vote. Yeah. Like Facebook pages, Instagram, and yeah.
Did you do any digital campaigning in like when you ran the last few years?
Yeah, 100%. 100% I did. Yeah, I did do a lot of like DMing people, like private messaging and direct messaging people who I knew that were Westminster students but weren't on campus. So I did a lot of that. But also society endorsements, I feel like is a massive big deal, and because societies have access to so many students. So I would say try and get as many society endorsements as well. Yeah, so I did do online campaigns. So I had like an Instagram page and I had a Facebook page and stuff like that, but I feel like most of my campaigning was in person. But I think you guys can still do really well, do really, really well online.
Everyone's going to be on their phones this year because it's all we can do at the moment. So
Yeah, to be honest, like I co-managed an NUS campaign which was solely online, and we won that election, and it was mainly DMing people, messaging people online, making sure that you're tweeting, you're putting things on Instagram using the right hashtags. I don't know if we're doing a Westminster SU election hashtag.
University elections.
There we go. So like use the hashtags, use all of that, like get on it. You'll be fine. You'll be amazing.
So thinking about your campaign over the last 2 years, so last year you had over 700 people vote for you. Exciting. How did you know that many people to be able to get them to vote for you? Or did you know that many people?
I actually knew, like, I knew quite a few of them, but I think my biggest strength was societies, getting people to vote on my behalf, a good strong campaign team, getting people to vote, because if you actually think about it, 700 votes is actually not that much. If you have like 7 campaigners and each person is getting like, what I'm doing the maths in my head, but it's not working, but you know what I mean, like they get a small number of votes each day, you can easily get to that 700. It's not that hard to get, and then on top of that, also if you're like getting your friends to tell a friend to tell a friend, you're gonna get there. So but also, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, just don't worry about the numbers, just do your campaign, vote, like do your campaign, get as many people to vote. Don't count like how many people have voted, because I'll be honest with you, I did that in my first year of elections, and it was the worst thing I ever did. I should not have done that. So I would say literally just like don't worry about the numbers, you just go out there, get as many people to vote, and that's it.
Focus on you and the best thing, because you don't know how many votes other people are getting.
Sure. Exactly.
Do you have any advice for people who have been stuck doing online classes for the year and therefore have been struggling to make more friends to then have people to vote for them?
My advice would be like your course, I guess, will be like your best friends in this election. Like get them to make sure that because I'm assuming you would have been interacting with them. If you've like I'll be honest, have no shame. Like if you interacted with that one student like a couple of months ago, contact them, message them, be like, yo, I'm running in these elections. It would be great if you could support me. Because I'll be honest with you, that's what I did. When I was contacting people I haven't spoken to all year, and I was like, guys, I'm running in elections. It's this time of the year again. And so because it was my third election, people just knew what was going on. Like Lubaba's just running in elections again, and she was like, and I was just like, please vote for me, because I ran for multiple elections. I ran for too many elections. I'm done. I'm tired. But so people just know when I contact them, I just want them to vote, and like have no shame. Obviously, no forcing, guys. I'm not encouraging that, but of course, like contact everyone you know at Westminster. Even if it's someone you've never spoken to, contact them, show them your manifesto, tell them this is my manifesto, this is what I want to, this is what I want to do, and if you agree with my manifesto, then please do vote for me.
Yeah, love that. So when you're like in your role, if you get elected, like how do you do campaigns? Like how do they work?
In my role?
Yeah.
So how it will work is you will have like a task and finish group. So the staff are amazing in supporting you as a sabbatical officer and making sure that you're getting your work done. So like a lot of the work that we've done has not reached to a full-blown campaign. Most of it is behind the scenes, sitting in meetings, chatting with the relevant people, and making sure that work is done. And so I think that's what is great about it. But when things do go to a straight full-on campaign, then I guess it's again, you've got the support of the support of the staff, and like for example, like our tuition fees, you see it on our social media, we get people to sign, hold like different groups and things like that. So
nice, love that. Do you have any ideas of how to do campaigning in the time of lockdown? Like I know you mentioned about social media. Do you like any more examples as to how that might happen in reality?
No, I'll be honest, like social media is going to be your best friend. Like obviously guys, be careful with your mental health and stuff. Don't be spending too much time like messaging people and things, but it's going to be your best friend. You're going to message. So the two things are going to be your like the key, right? Your social media platform and societies and sports. those are going to be your massive, if you get as many endorsements as possible, and get as many endorsements, and get as many like be as vocal on social media as possible. And then on top of that, another thing which sort of worked for me in my first year, actually even my second year of elections, I did like an endorsement kind of thing where people wrote like paragraphs about me and why they voted for me, and I put it on my social media, and that really worked really well as well. And like people were like seeing that and be like, oh, she's got like all these people support, and they've like explicitly said why they're voting for me. So that's something else as well that you could do as part of your social media platform. Have a nice like cheeky catchy phrase. So like mine was make your vote valid with Khalid, because my surname is Khalid. So like do like something cheeky, have a couple of hashtags, like get really like creative in the way you think about things. Like I know people like I don't know if it's ever been done at Westminster, but like people have done like music videos, they go full out on their social media platform, and I would say like guys, get creative. This is an amazing opportunity to get really, really creative in the way you go about getting as many votes as possible.
Yeah, love that. Did you ever do anything like lecture shout outs, or like try and tap into the academics at any point? Or
I did do a couple of lectures, like shout outs, which was also really helpful. So that's true, lectures are online. You can always jump in, like message a couple of lecturers in your course, in your department, and ask them, I'm running for these elections, is it all right if I could just in the beginning of your lecture be able to just get people to vote for me? So that's also another way to get things through.
love that. So what can we do with our budgets? Obviously we're online.
What is the budget, if you don't mind me asking?
So I can't remember off the top of my head. It's £15, I believe, per sabbatical officer role, or £10 per faculty officer role. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, £15 per sabbatical officer role, or £10 per role.
To be honest, guys, I don't know if this will work, so don't take my word for it, but you can always like pay to boost your posts and your campaigns on Instagram and Facebook, so you can like pay for your post to be boosted, but obviously that could be a hit and miss, because like the people that it's reaching out might not even be Westminster students, but it's maybe something that could work. Yeah.
So we're going to be providing some advice as to ways that potentially could work, because that's kind of what we see what most of the stuff for budgets coming is from that. So
yeah, no, that makes sense, to be honest. Yeah.
As Vice President Welfare, what was your best achievement that you've done for UWSU and towards the service users?
So I think so the two things that I'm by far like the most proudest about is the our student union's Black Westminster Matters commitments that we released as a response to BLM. I think that's something that I was genuinely so proud of. Actually, there's a couple of things actually. If you don't mind, Hannah, I might just big up myself, because I feel like I deserve it. I think one of my other proudest moments was organizing Black History Month as the BME officer, but I know it did it as a BME officer, but like it was a massive deal for me, and it was like, yeah, it was such a wonderful thing to see. And I think another proudest moment is now having we've got the report and support system in place for students to report like harassment and violence and all of that, which we never had before, which is so exciting. I think something else I'm really, really proud about is like showing the university the importance of intercultural sensitivity or cultural competence services within the university. So now the university has £50,000, which they're spending just on the importance of intercultural sensitivity and cultural competence services, which again, I'll be honest with you, these were things that weren't happening from the beginning. Like it was a bit of a push, but now like seeing the change of culture with staff and university, it's been amazing, and seeing these different changes. So those are definitely like some of my proudest moments. I think actually I have to say this is another really proud moment, because it was such a big deal. I think another really proud moment of mine is that when students came to me and told me about especially our Muslim students who were struggling to access financial support within the university because they didn't take out a maintenance or tuition loan, and because obviously of the interest, and that's against our religion. So the university actually agreed now to provide support for students regardless if they got the tuition or the maintenance loan, which again is a massive deal. So now there's that support as well for students. So
yeah,
that
was some amazing stuff. It just goes to show kind of like what I think you can achieve in the role, because 2 years ago all that stuff we thought was impossible, and I think that's kind of like what I encourage you is there's some stuff which you might be thinking of like, is that possible? And actually it'll probably be hard to get it done, but like Lubaba's got some amazing stuff done. So massive
persistence is always the key, I'll be honest.
How hard
don't give up
working with the university, because let's be honest, like they're not always the most up to date. So how hard have you found that working with them on those key issues?
Because I'm having the difficult conversations, very difficult conversations around race relations and racism and things like that, that I have had quite a wonderful roller coaster with my relationship with the university. It's been, some days it's been amazing, some days I am like ready to resign. I don't know if I'm making this job sound really, I'm like, guys, it's actually an amazing job, but obviously I'm not going to sell you guys dreams. Obviously there's going to be some tough times, and I did have quite a couple of those, and that's because of the difficult conversations I was having, but it turned out all right, because now we have the intercultural sensitivity framework available. We've got the report and support tool in place, and I'll be honest with you, when I first mentioned these, it really came with a lot of hesitation. They're like, no, this is not happening. No, it's not good. It's not good. But now, you know, they are keen to do these things, and they've done it. And so, it can get tough, but if they respect to you and your role. And I think that's so important, is that they respect that the fact that you are the student voice, you got elected to do this job, and they respect that. So with persistence, you'll be able to get your things done.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you are the lead representative of students. So if they're not going to listen to you about student feedback, then that's when we start going back out to students again. So exactly. I think this question leads really well on, actually. So I'm going to ask it in two parts. So firstly, how much were you supported throughout the campaigning process? Like, it's like running for election, how much were you supported? You don't have to be nice to me, I promise.
No, Hannah, you didn't. I'll be honest, you did do an amazing job. Like, we had our little, I remember like every time I see food in the tables, got us pizza, you treated us well, you know, you really did it. And it helped so much, you know, it really helped because, because obviously, like, I've done 3 election seasons in Westminster, and I remember the first 2 elections I ran, like, for example, things like the voting was open 24 hours. It killed us. Do you know how much weight I lost in that 1 week? It was ridiculous. I lost like 4 kilos in 1 week because I wasn't eating and I was running around, and it was crazy. And so that was like, that happened, and so that was like in the third time I ran in elections. It was amazing to see, like, actually voting is only open from 10 to 5. I think that was the timing. So like after 5, there's no point me running around because there's no voting. Voting isn't open, so I'm going. But obviously now, because everything is online, it's different. But from my understanding, I don't. Please do correct me if I'm wrong. You guys are gonna get like little care packages and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna be a surprise, but it's fine, we'll pretend we didn't say anything.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Oh, it's fine.
Guys, ignore everything I just said. Like, yeah, you will be well supported by Hannah. She's got a couple of surprises in for you. That's all I can say. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, anyway, yeah, we try to support you. One thing I should say is this year voting is going to be open 24/7, and that's not because we're expecting you to be working all the hours. It's because we have some candidates not in the UK, and so we want everyone to have an equal chance to be able to speak to people in their own time zone. But we will be setting in times that we encourage people to be like working in, and times to be able to de-stress. And one thing we have done this year to improve your well-being is if you're running for a sabbatical officer role, then you'll be able to apply life mitigating circumstances to get out of like to extend deadlines if you've got any during voting week this year, to try and hopefully mitigate some of that, because we're having to keep polls open the whole time. Okay, so the second half of this question is, how much support do you get actually in the role, and do you have people you can check in with if you're struggling throughout the role?
Yes, so I have a coach, and I love my coach Steve, who is an independent individual from the university, from the union, sorry. And Steve like checks in with us on a monthly basis to see how we're doing, and he's usually like our little like we just rant to him. Like, I'm a ranter. He just sees me and he's like, yep, go for it, Lubaba, 1 2 3, and I'm like and I'm like going for it. And so that's like amazing and has helped me so much. But of course, you know, we have the support of staff like Hannah. You know, literally the whole student union is there to support you and do everything for you. But the only reason why I mentioned Steve is because sometimes within the role you would want to speak to someone independently that's not part of the union, and that's why we have Steve, who is phenomenal. Big up Steve. And yeah, and so then obviously you've got obviously the staff as well who you can go to, and if you build like good relationships and everything, then you should be fine and everything.
Yes, we work quite collaboratively on a lot of projects. So we try and take a lot of the admin off Sab's hands. Good at doing admin, us full-time staff are. Has anyone else got any more questions that they'd like to ask? If what stage 1 and stage 2 vote means, I'm not sure I understand the question. Can you give a bit more clarification to what you mean by stage 1 and stage 2 votes, please? Mitigated circumstances are just for voting week, but I'll be sending out an email to confirm exactly how that will work once we've had that officially confirmed from the university. But yeah, just for the voting week itself, because that's the week it's going to be kind of like the most intense. But as Lubaba said, like, we encourage you to be taking regular screen breaks, to be going out for walks, because it's going to be intense.
100%.
Just waiting for. Oh, okay. So what is the stage 1 and stage 2 votes in terms of like the voting system? Lubaba, are you happy to explain that?
Yeah, I'm gonna try. So the SU elections is you vote in preferences, right? So when you're voting, i.e. I'm number 1 candidate, Hannah's number 2 candidate, and let's say Beth is number 3 candidate. Okay, they're all university staff, so I'm not encouraging anyone for you guys to vote for anybody, right? So for example, first person who's voting, they may say they want to put Hannah as a preference number 1, Beth as preference number 2, Lubaba as preference number 3, right? Then a second person might put, actually, I want Lubaba to be number 1, Beth number 2, and Hannah number 3 in preference order, right? And what will happen is, when they're counting the votes, what they'll do is they'll do first, so everyone who has had the first preference votes, they'll see if anyone reached 50% of the votes. Am I doing this right? So they'll see if anyone reached 50% of the votes. So 50% of people who voted put this candidate as, so let's say myself as candidate number 1, and then that means I won the election. So stage 2, 3, and 4 does not matter. However, let's say I didn't reach 50%, what they'll have to do is they'll count my second preferences. So they'll see how many people have had second preferences, and they'll include that into the votes and check, has anyone reached 50%? Now, guys, don't be fooled. If you've got enough second preference votes, you can still win this election. So I would say, like, that's a very good point. So I'd say, like, even if you're like campaigning and someone tells you, oh, I'm voting for this person as first preference, tell them, can I be your second preference? Can I be your third preference? Because those votes will actually add up in the end. Because if I had enough second preferences, then I could win the election, for example. And I think that's really, really important when you're thinking about your campaigning and things like that. So that is what the did I do it's not as good as your video that you have, but I think I did all right.
Very good job, and I feel like I've taught you a lot in the last 2 years. It makes me happy.
Hannah taught me this, and that's how I know. So yeah.
So basically keep going for second preference votes, especially if like you're worried that you're not going to be like the number one candidate for everybody else, because so many people have won by being people's second preference. And I can't remember the last time that somebody won in the first stage of voting. So one person getting over 50% of the votes, especially like when there's more than two people.
I would say Ismahan did that last year.
Oh yeah, she did.
I'm gonna say, sorry, because I know I was gonna say, and then I realized Ismahan's not running an election, so I can big her up. Like, your vice president of postgrad education, she smashed the election. She got over 1,000 votes, and like her second place had like 200. So yeah, she did amazing.
Yeah, second preferences are always really handy to go for. Hopefully that helps, and we will be sending around a really cute video which explains it very well with post-it notes. Especially
Yes.
I love the post-it note. Has anyone else got any other questions, or Mike? I'll give it a minute. And while seeing if there's final questions, I've got one final question for you, Lubaba, from me. Is that if you could give yourself one word of advice when you were first thinking about running, like those many years ago, what would that advice be?
That advice would be like, don't worry about who you're running against. Just focus on yourself, your campaign, and literally do the best that you can do. And if it works or not, like I always, this is a saying that I use, is like, you know what, in the end of the day, it's in the hands of God. So, you know, like for me, if I did my absolute best, and that's all that matters. And that was not my mentality on the first round in elections. I was very like, oh my God, this person, like thinking about my opponents and things I'm running against. But actually, I should have just focused on myself, do my absolute best, and then just leave it, move on.
Love that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone so much for your questions. If you have any questions that you didn't want to answer in front of it, you didn't want to ask in front of everybody, or just they're a bit niche, then do please email me on su-elections@westminster.ac.uk. I say email there just in case I go down sick. My manager can still answer emails. And if there's any questions for Lubaba, I'll be able to pass them on to her. If we'd love to have you if you haven't applied to the role yet already. So please do check out the website uwsu.com/elections, where all the information as to how to apply is there. Or if you've got any questions, then literally drop us a message and we'll answer as quickly as possible. And I really look forward to seeing what you will manage to do in the next few weeks. I love elections, and you're going to smash it.
Yes, I'm actually so excited because I'm not involved in anything, so I'm chilling.
We can watch, enjoy all the exciting ideas everyone comes up with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that might be it. I don't know if I want to say anything, but thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.